Welcome back to the Fourfold Path. I'm your host, Jordan, and it has been 4 scenes since we've had an expected scene, and I am not at all bitter about that. Let's test to see if our next scene is what we think it should be. We have a chaos factor of 7 now, so we need to roll a 7, 8, or a 9 in order to get the expected scene. I guess I should tell you what the expected scene is. The expected scene is that Janus and Tabitha go down to the precinct and are asked to see if they can recognize the person that broke into their apartment and home and office. Right onto the floor. Let's try again. An 8. Holy crap. I have something just for this moment. Off it goes onto the reserve, and dun 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 dun. Look at that. Get angry enough about it to make a prop, and you can rely on the D10 as well. So we are going to go to the precinct and identify some folks. All right, so let's just go ahead and add the scene to the tableau so that we have it in our mind. Now, what's that going to look like? What is that going to look like? That's going to look like Janus and Tabitha receiving calls on their cell phones. Hey, we've pulled the video records from campus, and we'd like you to come down and see if you recognize the person that broke in, because most of the time, it's somebody you know. And so they're going to say, all right, well, let's schedule a time. Here are our course schedules. They get a time worked out. Do they go down together? Yeah, there wouldn't be any reason for them not to drive. So that's going to give Janus and Tabitha some time in the car. So they hop in the car and they get ready to go. It's probably a relatively quiet ride. It's been a stressful couple of days, and in fact, it doesn't take long to pull those things, and they want to move quickly. It's probably literally the next day. And Janus is going to be surprised. Because Tabitha's going to walk in and say, hey, they called me and wanted me to come down to the precinct to see if I could identify the burglar. Do you want to go together? I think it makes the most sense for us to go at the same time. And Janus says, what? He says, oh, sorry, someone broke into my office last night and tossed my house. And she's going to say it very matter-of-factly, just like, this is what happened. There was someone that had broken into my office when I got back from dinner after the tribunal yesterday. And I chased them, but they got away. And so because of the situation, I got a police escort home, and when I got there, we found that someone had broken into my house. And so I spent last night I can't remember if I said it was a Days Inn or a Holiday Inn or what, but I spent last night at the motels out by the freeway because I didn't feel comfortable in my house. Anyway, they called me too and wanted me to come in and see if I could identify this person. I assume they called you as well. And so I feel like we should coordinate our schedules so we only have to drive down the once. And Janus is going to be freaked out by that. He's going to be very alarmed because, well, if they're coming for both of them, right? That's a problem. When it was just an isolated thing, well, he would have been freaked out anyway, but he's going to be still sort of mildly in shock at the whole situation. But yeah, let's go. They are fortuitously not on a day that they have lectures. It's a day where they maintain office hours, but they set out their out of office reminders, and they send an email saying, hey, we have this, we need to be out of office for private appointments. If you have a need on this day, we will extend office hours on this other day. So they both hop in and they both drive. And on the drive down, the conversation turns towards like, well, why would they target you? And Tabitha says they're clearly targeting something about us and our research. If the police think that it's the same burglar and they stole your hard drive, what they took from me was a tablet with a bunch of my research on it. Clearly what they're targeting is our research agenda somehow. I don't know who our research agenda would be interesting to, but that seems to be what's going on. What kind of mathematician is Tabitha? Is she a statistician? Is she in topology? Does she do proof systems? Or set theory? Given her early interest in numerology and so on, I'm going to say that she does sort of advanced mathematical models, probability and statistics. So modeling and game theory are her big things. Maybe graphical models and game theory or something like that, or Buki automata. But complicated models and game theory and formal proofs of complex systems is like, that's a big, broad area. Her thesis was probably on, let's say that her thesis was on her thesis was on game theory in partially observable systems, complicated partially observable systems, maybe. Because that would tie in with her notion that there are systems that underpin everything, they can be understood, they can be used for prediction. And because that's her area of specialty, that's probably close to what Janus is researching. And Janus is going to say, well, why would anyone steal mathematical research? And she says, I don't know. It could be that we've uncovered something that's actually quite useful for a domain that we don't understand, and some government wants to see our advanced research and take it from us, but they'd probably just woo us instead. It could be that some financial quant group thinks that we're onto something and wants to take our research from it, but they just buy it. So I don't know. This doesn't make any sense. Literally no earthly sense. Maybe we angered somebody and they're just doing this to harass us. That almost makes as much sense as anything else. But they, the conversation in the car is friendly. They're both sort of sitting there wondering, like, what the hell is going on? None of this makes sense. And they arrive at the precinct. So Janus and Tabitha park in the parking garage next to the administrative buildings downtown and walk over to the police precinct and in. For Tabitha, this is her second walk in there in, as many days almost, kind of a thing. Because she had to go over there to pick up Janus. They walk in, they talk to the desk personnel. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Come this way. They lead them into the back. And there's a room with some computers, and one of the detectives is sitting in front of the computer. He's like, yeah, we pulled the surveillance footage from the university, and the preliminary reports that we have, and some cameras that the apartment complex that Janus is in, they seem to show the same person. And so we want to see if it is someone that you know. And we should probably talk in just momentarily, like, let's not make the decision that it's the same person instantly. Let's ask Mythic. I'm going to say that it's actually pretty likely that it's the same person. Very likely, in fact. And we are on a 7 on the Mythic table. So anything less than a 90 is, it's the same person. Or a 90 and less, according to the table. So we got a 79. 79 is yes, it's the same person. And now there is a question of if it is someone that either of them know. We're gonna turn to Tabitha here. Tabitha and Janus are both looking. So I'm going to say that let's look at what ciphers we have in our back pocket. We have confidence and we have residual charge. We need to set a difficulty on the task. These are surveillance cameras. The person is not a... these are surveillance cameras. The person did not have on a hat in the case of the university, so they weren't as covered as they could be. They didn't know where all the cameras were. There's no way they could have. We got some pretty clear shots of them, I'm going to say. So it's not the hardest of hard tasks. Let's say that it's a difficulty 2. And Janus is also looking and is earnest, so that's going to provide an asset. And Tabitha is going to spend a single edge to succeed at the task. Just outright succeed. So let's update her pool. And let's ask fate. So if it's someone Tabitha knows, she will recognize this person. Actually, I want to see how much of a task she clears. So we're going to roll anyway. She will clear the task, but let's see how much she would clear it by. So she would clear still a difficulty 3 task. So so she would effectively have succeeded against a difficulty 5. How likely is it that this is someone that Tabitha or Janus know personally? They had to know that they had to know that they could break into Janus's house at that time. So they had to know something about his plans. Specifically that he had a concert that night or was going out with Anthony. They had to know something about Tabitha's life, where she lived and where her office was. Her and Janus's too. So knowing where Janus lived, knowing where Tabitha lived, those are not matters of public record. And knowing their schedules that intimately, that suggests it's someone that they probably know or have encountered multiple times. It could be that it's someone that's trailing them, but that's going to be rolled in. So I'm going to say let's ask if it's someone that Tabitha or Janus knows. Like, they've interacted with them multiple times. I'm going to say that's very likely again. On the Chaos Factor 7, we got to roll less than 90. We rolled a 14. That is an extreme yes. It is someone, it's extreme yes. So that's someone that they know exceptionally well. It's someone that they are going to be interacting with almost every day, and they're going to have some sort of distinct feature that's going to identify them, where it's just going to be beyond a shadow of a doubt. We need some words to understand who this person might be. So we got character traits and flaws. We have character motivations, personalities, and identity. So let's roll some words on the character tables. We got a 93. So it could be a rude person or a travel person or a sweet, travel and sweet, travel, sweet, survivor, strange, travel. So let's get another one. I like travel because that suggests some things to me. And a 9. Awkward, anxious, assistant, travel assistant. or anxious or awkward. So this is someone that let's flip a coin. Who is this person closer to? Heads, they're closer to Tabitha. No, tails for Tabitha. Heads, they're closer to Janus, and tails for Tabitha. They are closer to Tabitha, and they are a travel. They are a travel person and an assistant. I'm going to say that this person is a professor that Tabitha has met at conferences. So on travel, they're not a full professor yet. They are an associate professor. So they're not just picking up coursework. They do actually have a office on campus to use that is their own, but they're not tenure tracked where they are. They're in a temporary appointment, and they are. Are they working at the school? Are they working at the university with them right now? They would be in the math department if they were. I'm gonna say it's unlikely, but we're gonna ask fate again if they are working locally. So let's say it's unlikely. We need to roll under a 65. I can't quite see that. That is a 96. So that's actually in the extreme no end. So this is a foreign professor. This is someone that Tabitha met on international conference. So this is a professor from non-U.S. school. And we got a extreme no on they don't work for the university, right? So not only, they're not like even a visiting professor, they're not even in the way that we were aware supposed to be in the area right now. As far as we knew, they they've shown up to conferences over the last year or two and have presented as if they are still working for their university. But maybe that's not the case. So Tabitha is going to see the image. She's going to go, "Oh my God!" And who is it gonna be? What is her name gonna be? I need to pick someone who is not a researcher that I know, which can be a challenge, and we need to pick some identifying features of them. Heads, it's a man. Tails, it's a woman. It is a man, so it's a male professor. They are, let's see. Let's say one is Europe or England, 2 is South American, 3 is somewhere in Asia, and 4 is Australia. They are an Australian professor, so quite a ways from home. I'm going to name this guy Professor Irwin, although not professor anymore, so I guess, well, maybe not professor anymore. For no particular reason will we name the Australian Professor Irwin. So that gives us a little bit of an identity. And Tabitha's going to say, "Oh my God." And what's his first name? It's obviously not Steve. We can't do that. It's Charles. Oh my God, Chuck? the hell's he doing here? Tabitha recognizes him now, but didn't recognize him last night. So she's looking at the footage from the apartment complex where he wasn't wearing a disguise. Charles is very proud of his hair. He has he always wears a flat top. Just immaculately manicured, and is very, very proud of it. So it's a little taller than your usual flat top, and it's just sort of his affectation. He never came out of the 90s. And maybe he has a military background or something like that too. Maybe he just really likes Street Fighter and Maine's Guile. I don't know. But Tabitha didn't notice it when he broke in because of the bald cap. So he had disguised his countenance enough that she didn't pick up on it initially. And she's going to be like, oh my God, I should have noticed the voice. But he was wearing a disguise when he was in the department. And so they're only going to be certain that it was the same person because they have other physical evidence, the fingerprints from both sides, that preliminary came back as a match. So if I said that it was obviously the same person on camera both places, that can't be true because it's someone Tabitha recognized, and we need to have there be an explanation for that, which would be a disguise, which would be pretty convincing on a camera. Anyway, so we've got this Professor Charles, because I will never remember that his name is Charles after this this play session if I don't write it down. Charles Irwin broke into Janus's house and Tabitha's house. And the police officer, the detective that's operating the systems, would be like, oh, you recognize him? And she says, yeah, pull up, search for Charles Irwin on the internet. We're looking for a professor from ANU. And we find that Charles is Charles still working for ANU? I'm going to say that's it's not the case. Charles is no longer working for ANU. It is nearly impossible. No, it is impossible for him to still be listed as nearly impossible for him to be listed as a professor with ANU. 30, he is listed as a professor with ANU. He's on sabbatical. So they pull up the picture. It looks very similar to the guy that's on the security cameras outside of Janus's apartment, and he is on sabbatical. All right. I'm just curious, what time of day is it? It's somewhere between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So I'll roll a d6. It is 1 in the afternoon. 1 in the afternoon is something like 2 or 3 a.m. Australia time. So the professor says, or not the professor, sorry, the detective says, we'll shoot an email to ANU and see where their wayward professor is supposed to be on sabbatical, and let them know that we have that this is going on. They're gonna put out a bulletin and whatnot, but then there's gonna be the question of, why is this person targeting you? And this is a person that Tabitha only knows from conferences. She's interacted with him at various academic proceedings, discussing papers, having dinner, drinking a beer. And she's going to say, there's no bad blood there that I'm aware of. He's another academic. He's another mathematician. We work in different spaces even. I work on game theory, systems modeling, and he is a he works in like number theory, like formal mathematics, randomness. That's what he works in. He works in randomness and pseudo-random number generation. So he's a crypto nerd. But from the math side. So she's going to say, our areas don't even overlap, so there's not even a professional rivalry that I'm aware of. I don't think he was looking for this position. He's I don't think that he was even looking for a position in the States. I think he wanted to stay in Sydney or Canberra. At least that was what he was saying the last time we talked. When was that? Oh, I don't know. It's been we're going to divide by 4. So how many seasons has it been since I've seen him? It's been almost 2 years. We were at an international conference on discrete mathematics in Budapest, and I ran into him there, and we had dinner with a few colleagues, and we chatted about we chatted about the early academic career situation and how we got involved in mathematics over drinks. It was like a completely normal conversation. And they asked Janus, do you know this person at all? There is no reason for Janus to have met this person. Janus just joined the department. He hasn't been publishing internationally. If Janus knows him, he knows him because he approached Janus at some point. So the question is, did he ever approach Janus? And I want to say no. He got to Janus through Tabitha. But how would he have done that? He would have seen them talking and then followed the other guy. So there's a chance. There is a chance that Janus is going to recognize him too, and is going to recognize him, an interaction that they had at some point. So let's say that it is nearly impossible that Janus recognizes him. 58. Janus does not recognize him. Janus says, I've never seen the man in my life. So the connection is via Tabitha. And so they're going to say, well, we're going to run it down. Obviously, he's in the area. We haven't brought him in yet, but now that we have a name, it's much more likely that we're able to identify him. He's going to, he has to have he's in the U.S., so he has to come here on a passport, on a visa. He is probably buying or renting a hotel room with a credit card, buying food and so on. So it won't be long before we pick him up. But obviously, there have been several break-ins. There's some connection to you. So we recommend that that you... They're not going to say lay low for a little bit. They're going to offer her a protective detail. And... they're going to offer her a protective detail. So they're absolutely going to offer Tabitha a protective detail. Are they going to offer Janus a protective detail as well? It's a small college town. They probably can't spare 2 cruisers. So let's ask fate again. Are they going to offer Janus a protective detail? I'm going to say that it's nearly impossible. No, it's very unlikely that they offer him his own protective detail. And even if they do, they're like, you need to have one too, but sparing 2 is a lot. So do they even offer it to Janus? It's very unlikely that they even offer it to him. 27. So they do. They say, look, you need a protective detail as well. knows that you're connected to Tabitha. He broke into your apartment. We don't really know. Like, it's in every case, it hasn't been an attack yet, but now that he's aware that he's been pursued out of an area, it could escalate. So you need to have a protective detail as well. Unfortunately, it's a relatively small town. It's a relatively small police force. We just don't have the assets to keep you both separately under protective detail. And Tabitha's going to let out this big sigh. She's like, oh, God damn it. But she's not going to say that. She's going to sigh deeply. And she's going to say, look, I'm going to need one of you to call the university. Because, and then she's going to explain the situation. There was the break-in at Janus's place. She took him into her home for an evening and had him there. And it was a big issue with the university. And now you're asking the two of them to be in the same place under a protective detail. And there's a relatively obvious solution here. It's just that she's going to need to have it cleared because there's going to be the optics issue for a while. And it's going to be the hotel thing, right? Like the obvious solution is for them to have two separate hotel rooms across the hall from each other in the same location for the duration of the thing. But that's going to be expensive, and the university isn't going to pay for it. And the university could offer them temporary faculty housing and a protective detail, but they're not going to want to have... This is not like the era of resource officers and whatnot. They're not going to want to have that protective detail on campus. That'll be uncomfortable. So the solution is to have them in one of the two locations that the guy knows about. Because the third location, there's just not a third location that really makes sense. We'll have to deal with that. But because of the confining nature of the protective detail, Tabitha's going to have to say, look, you have to call the university. This is going to be an issue. And so she is going to... Who is she going to call? Is she going to call her chair or Jennifer? Jennifer said to call, but there was the thing last night already. She isn't going to call Jennifer's private number. She's going to call Jennifer at the institution. Like the institutional Jennifer. So it rings through. Jennifer answers as her sort of formal self. Counsel's office, blah, 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 or legal office of blah, blah, blah university. She has a secretary, actually, and the switchboard connects Tabitha to Jennifer, announcing who it is. And Jennifer answers and says, yeah, Tabitha? And Tabitha's going to explain the whole thing. Look, they want to keep us in protective custody because of what happened last night. We've identified who broke into my office and my home, presumably my home, and also Janus's apartment. Not presumably, we know. And it's someone I know from the academic world. Tells her the whole story. And they want to put us in protective custody. But they don't have enough police officers to keep us in protective custody in separate places. And so I know that's going to be an issue because of what just happened. But for our safety, it's the right thing to do. How do we navigate it? And Jennifer is not one to lose her cool. She's just you're gonna hear the deep breathing on the other side of the line. Just, all right, let me make some phone calls. We'll get this figured out. But tell them that yes, they can keep you under protective custody. where are they going to do that? And Tabitha's going to say, they haven't decided. I felt like letting the university make a suggestion that would make them the most comfortable was the right way to handle this. And Jennifer is going to say, yeah, that actually is going to make my job easier. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a difficulty 5 task to keep this from blowing up. Like the Dean Francis is going to be a horse's ass about it and is going to make things difficult unless the collective of Janus, Tabitha, and Jennifer can get it negotiated. And maybe also the chair, but mostly those 3. We have the asset of, we gave the university as much forewarning as we could, as much free hand, so that takes it down to 4. Tabitha is being assisted by Jennifer, who is brilliant at her job and knows how to navigate the school well. That's 3. And frankly, because we've identified the person that's breaking in and know it's the same person and know that they are related, like that they are someone that knows Tabitha and could find her in various places, it's just an unreasonable ask to have one of them not be under protection. So we've gone from a 5 to a 4 to a 3. And then Tabitha will use effort in order to try to get there. She'll only use 1 effort, even though she can use 2 now. So we need to roll at least a 6. And if we don't roll at least a 6, what's the consequence there? We're going to have some sort of negative consequence down the line from having them put in there. We're going to have a hindrance on some role interacting with the dean in an honor context going forward. So we'll have to make a note of that. So we rolled an 18. So it's not an issue. Jennifer manages to negotiate it. So is it going to be Tabitha's house, a hotel room, or hotel rooms, or some location that the university negotiates? And we'll re-roll on a 4. So Tabitha's house, a hotel room, some location that the university negotiates. We got a 4. Let's re-roll. It is a hotel. So they're going to say, look, you're already in the Days Inn. The university will front the money for both of you to have rooms on the same floor, different rooms, not adjacent, but across the hall from each other. And we will... Is a hotel going to be okay with police presence? Is that actually a thing? They would have to be. There would have to be a hotel that would be like, yeah, it's fine, but also we need it to not be super obvious. So it's not going to be someone out in the hallway all the time. It's going to be someone in the lobby and someone in the lobby and someone in one of the 2 rooms. So they're going to give them abutting rooms with a pass-through so that the cops can walk back and forth. So we're gonna be laying low at a hotel, and not like laying low. Are they going to be laying low at a hotel until they bring him in? No, they're not going to disrupt their lives that way. They're going to have a police escort and police surveillance at. They're going to have police surveillance at the hotel. They're going to have campus security surveillance on campus. So they're just going to have a police officer sort of floating around them for a little while. So they're going to have a security detail. And they're going to be staying in a hotel for a little while these folks run Professor Charles Irwin to ground. So they, and then there's some brief other elements of the interview. What was stolen? What was its value? In both cases, it's research. It's research that seems to be what he was after. sort of mathematical information. And it's been less than 24 hours since the break-in. And they just identified him. What are the chances that, well, if Charles is already on an airplane back to Australia, that sort of kills the entirety of the narrative? Yeah, that would be awful. If he sort of escaped to Australia, because there's no reason for Tabitha or Janus to chase him. It's like, oh, the immediate danger is over and some of our research is lost. Let's continue on with our lives. So the question shouldn't be, has he already escaped to Australia? That doesn't make any sense. There has to be something else that's tying him to this region, something he doesn't have yet that he needs from those two. Or something he doesn't have from a third party that he needs, because he needs to stay and play. We'll have to figure out what that is. So the interview concludes. Tabitha and Janus get ready to go out to their vehicle, and then they stop them and are like, did you forget about the security detail? Sit there. And they assign they assign a pair of officers to them. And the officers say, so we're going to be, they go through the whole debriefing. We're going to be your constant companion. If you're going somewhere, tell us where it is. Like if you're getting up out of the room to go to the bathroom, we'll walk towards the restroom with you, but stand outside of it, kind of a thing. This is just out of an abundance of caution. The situation can always escalate, but there's no evidence that he's going to become violent or anything like that. So try not to sweat it, and we'll try to stay out of your way. There is a discussion about, like, are you going to come into the classroom with me? Because I don't want it to disrupt my classes. And the officers say that they'll be in plain clothes, and you can just say we're auditing. Or you can say that we're from the approvals board, right? The accreditation boards. And she said that's reasonable enough. The students will buy that. They don't know that accreditation happens on a cadence, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that won't be disruptive. And then they say, so should we, like, where do you want us to pull up so that you can follow us back over to campus? And they say, yeah, just pull around towards the motor pool, and we'll meet you on the exit from the police station and follow you over there. And Tabitha and Janus leave to go back to campus, which is the end of that scene. And at 35 minutes, that's probably sufficient to end the scene and not immediately pick up a second one. So when next we return, we'll figure out what it is that happens next to our two intrepid adventurers. I hope you'll join me then.